Howdy folks, and welcome to the Hillbilly Kitchen. Today we're going to be making chocolate truffles. Now, if you want to make candy for a party or you're making it to give away and you want to do something really special and have a big variety, truffles are a good option. This is the smoothest, creamiest chocolate ever, and then you can coat it with all kinds of stuff. The possibilities are just endless. Once I make my truffles, I'm going to roll some of them in some chopped almonds, some in some chopped pecans, and some in some chopped walnuts, and I have some crushed peppermint candies here that I'm going to roll some in. I'm also going to dip some in some dark chocolate, and these are just dark chocolate baking pieces or melting pieces. All you do literally is melt these in the microwave and then dip your truffles in them. And I also have some white baking pieces here. These are vanilla flavored chips, and you can use chips to dip your fruit or your candies in. You can use them just like they are, but if you like that really shiny sheen that they get, you know, when you dip fruit in dipping chips like these, you just want to add a tablespoon of either coconut oil, which is what I'm using. I think it's a little healthier option, and I also think it tastes a little bit better, or you can use regular shortening. But just a tablespoon added in, and it'll give them that nice shiny coating. But for our main truffle recipe, it's super simple. I have 2 cups of semi-sweet chocolate chips, 2 cups of milk chocolate chips, a cup of whipping cream, and this does need to be whipping cream. I'm going to use 2 teaspoons of vanilla, get real vanilla, and 1/4 cup of brown sugar. I also have 1/4 teaspoon of salt. You just need a little in there. And we're just going to put this on the stove, and we're going to heat it until it's all melted and together really smooth. You don't have to bring this to a boil necessarily, and you definitely want to stir it the whole time so that you don't scorch it. And that's the only hard part, is not scorching it. So let's get this over to the stove and start melting it. Okay, I'm just going to pour in my semi-sweet chocolate chips and my milk chocolate chips. Add my whipping cream and my brown sugar. And you can go ahead and put your vanilla in because you're not going to boil it, so it won't dilute the flavor or anything. Okay, just turn your stove on about medium. You don't want to do it too high. And start stirring. Now, if you buy really expensive chocolates, especially imported chocolates, a lot of times they will have some sort of liquor in them. And you can add 1/4 cup of rum to this. But if you add the rum, make sure, you know, that people who are eating it know that it's in there, and don't serve it to kids or anything like that. 1/4 cup is not gonna make people drunk or anything, and it does change the texture, or I'm sorry, it does change the taste. It does not change the texture of the chocolate at all, but the liquor changes the taste a little bit. While you're stirring this and melting it, you definitely want to make sure that you get up in the edges of your pot good, you know, where the sides fold up, because the chocolate kind of tends to collect there and it will scorch if you don't scrape it out as you're stirring it. My chocolate's starting to liquefy now, but you can see it's still really lumpy. So you want to keep stirring it until all those lumps are gone and it's smooth and creamy. Make sure you keep getting the chocolate out of your edges. You can use a double boiler to melt this if you have one. And I've seen a lot of people do this in a slow cooker because there's not really a whole lot of danger of it scorching in a slow cooker, but it takes like 3 hours. So unless you have a whole lot of time, this just takes a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes. And you do have to watch it constantly and stir it constantly, but that's pretty fast. And as long as you keep it stirred, the double boiler really is not necessary. Okay, our chocolate is all melted. It's nice and creamy. The brown sugar is all dissolved and it's mixed in there. It's got a nice shiny sheen to it. I'm just going to leave it on the heat another minute and stir it really good, just to make sure I don't have anything in there, any brown sugar lumps. But it looks pretty good to me. Alright, turn your stove off. And you do need to put this in the refrigerator and let it cool and get hard. I mean, obviously you can't form truffle balls out of melted chocolate, and we want to make this into little balls. Now that is literally all there is to making the chocolate. And it's just that easy to dress them too, but we're going to cover this and put it in the fridge. And we'll be back in about an hour or so when it gets firm. My truffle chocolate has been in the fridge for a while now, and it's solidified pretty good. Now this chocolate is not going to get real hard, but you do want it solid enough that you can scoop it out and you can kind of work with it. You can check it literally just by touching it. You can see mine's still a little bit soft in the center there, it squishes. But out here toward the edge, it's really starting to get hard. So that's going to be a little harder to work with because it is getting so firm. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to use a cookie scooper. You don't have to use a cookie scooper. You can just use a spoon and scoop it out and form it into balls. I just think this cookie scooper gives you slightly more regular sized balls, or it's easier to get it regular sized. You are going to get this chocolate on your hands, and you actually have to kind of roll it in your hands if you're going to dip it in the nuts or the candy. So you want to make sure your hands are clean before you start. I put down a piece of wax paper just to kind of keep things a little neater. And these can get pretty messy. Truffles are a really good candy for beginners because you don't have to get your chocolate heated to a certain temperature in order for it to come out. As long as you get it all melted good and you get it all mixed good, your truffles will come out. And there are so many possibilities for ways to coat them that you can make a lot of different candies that look super fancy, and they'll impress people, and people will think you really know how to cook when you make these. If you take it out of the refrigerator and it's too soft to work with, or some of it's too soft to work with, you can put it back in the refrigerator for a while. It's not going to mess anything up, and let it get a little bit firmer. When you're dipping your chocolate out, be sure and scrape your pan, because even that stuff that's left spread out in the bottom and on the edges and stuff, it will stick to the scoop that you have in your cookie scooper or on your spoon, because this is still really pliable and it sticks together. Alright, now you do have to dress these, because if you try to eat them like this, that's what your hands are going to look like. And the possibilities for dressing these are absolutely endless. You know, we've got 3 kinds of nuts here: the peppermint pieces, the white bacon pieces, which are vanilla flavored, the dark chocolate melting wafers that are for coating candy. That's what they're made for. So we're gonna go over to the microwave now, and we're gonna melt these pieces in the microwave. Just melt them 30 seconds at a time, stir them every 30 seconds and put them back in until they're liquidy. Now there's some little like lumps of chocolate in there, or not chocolate, but lumps of the vanilla chips in there, but that's pretty hot, and if you just mix it a little bit, they should dissolve right in. Okay, now let's decorate some truffles. Now my soft ones that were out of the center, I'm going to use them in the nuts. I'm not going to dip those super soft ones, here's one, down in that hot chocolate, and I am going to let the chocolate cool down for just a minute before I stick the truffles in them. And all you do is shape it kind of round there like I did, and then you roll it in some nuts. And I'm starting with pecans here, it looks like. And then you can take it and make it even more round by rolling it in your hands once you get a few nuts on it. And then just kind of roll it around, and there's some more. And as you do this, you might have to roll it a couple of times, but your hands actually heat up the chocolate and help the nuts stick to it better. Now you can roll these in sprinkles, like I said, any kind of nuts, just about anything you can think of that goes with chocolate, you can use it to cover your truffles with. And you can buy the little round peppermint candies and just lay them on the countertop in a bag and crush them with something. That's what I did. If you've got candy canes left over from Christmas, they work great for this too. If you are making these for Valentine's Day, now you know what to do with your leftover candy canes. And you can see that this doesn't like completely cover the chocolate. You can see the chocolate through the nuts, and you can see the chocolate through the peppermint. That's okay. I'm just going to use a little toothpick. Now they make a fancy little tool for dipping your chocolate. I don't have the fancy little tool, but you can stick it on a toothpick and dip it in the chocolate. Let it drain off a little bit. Now when this cools, it'll be a hard shell on the outside of the truffle, where the truffle chocolate, you know, is really soft and melts really fast. This won't melt as fast, and it will be much firmer than this truffle chocolate. The white bacon pieces are definitely harder to dip it in because the hot white chips, they kind of tend to melt the chocolate, and then it tries to mix in with your white. You can, by the way, once you get these all scooped out into a ball, you can put them back in the refrigerator if you're having trouble working with them, and let them get a little bit firmer before you start dipping them and stuff. Now once you've dipped it in the chocolate, you can dip it in some nuts, and you can do the whole thing, or you can just kind of coat the top in nuts. That makes a much bigger truffle because of all the layers. But that's just another option. Like I said, there's endless ways to decorate these. Okay, and something else you can do too, because you have these white chips melted and you have the dark chips melted, is the ones you have dipped in chocolate. You can drizzle a little white over top of the dark chocolate. Just let your spoon drip for a second before you start doing it so you don't get any real big chunks. And then you can do the same thing with your white ones. Oops. If you start off to the edge, it doesn't matter if you get a big drip on the edge, because that's going to come off. It's what's on top of your chocolate that's going to matter. My dark chocolate's getting a little bit cool. I might have to put it back in the microwave for a second. It's not drizzling. There we go. There. So you just keep going and decorating these, rolling them in the nuts or the candy, or dipping them in the chocolate, or doing the dipping them and then rolling them in the nuts. However you want to decorate them. Have fun, do a big variety. So this is a super simple recipe. You don't have to worry about getting it to a certain temperature. The only way you can mess it up is if you scorch it or you don't get it mixed good. And like I said, if they're too soft to work with, put them back in the fridge after you scooped them out. If they get too firm and your nuts and stuff are not sticking, all you have to do is roll it in your hands like this and it'll melt the outside. And then your nuts will stick really easy. So I hope you have fun with this recipe, and I make these for all the holidays, and I just try to dress them up to fit whatever holiday it is. Don't be afraid to give these a try. I know people think, when they think of truffles, they think, oh, that's got to be a really hard candy to make, and they're expensive if you buy them. It's super simple. Give it a try. Have fun when you're dressing them up and decorating them, and share them with friends at Valentine's Day or Christmas or Easter or whenever. We appreciate you joining us in the Hillbilly Kitchen. Don't forget to click like and subscribe before you leave, and we'll see you next time. Enjoy your truffles.